One of the real advantages of electric cooperatives membership is having a voice in our state's energy future.
Not a week goes by without important energy issues making headlines. These are issues that need to be discussed. And you should know that as policies are being developed, the cooperatives are looking out for our members, advocating what's best for you.
We are your friends and neighbors.
We are your local electric company.
The electric cooperatives.
We are Arkansas.
All right, time now to talk politics. Joining me for this week's Political Roundtable is radio commentator and GOP strategist Alice Stewart, Arkansas Times Associate Editor David Ramsey, and top business contributor Steve Brawner. He's also an independent columnist for the Arkansas News Bureau. Welcome to all of you for being here. Very much appreciate you.
Great to be here.
Thanks, Robbie.
All right, so let's begin with, let's start with healthcare this week. It's been a big topic in Washington, D.C. It's also been a big topic in Arkansas. Let's go D.C. first. Alice, the president goes on national television and says he's sorry for the debacle of the healthcare.gov launch. Is that enough to mollify his critics?
Did he say he was sorry?
I think that was point blank.
If he likes that apology, he can keep it. Period. I think it was not sincere, and I think it was what he said 3 times in that statement was, I regret the situation the American people have found themselves in, like they woke up in some drunken stupor at the end of the Obamacare train wreck. He led them down this road. He led the American people down this road based on those promises. And now the American people are finding out that he was not being factually accurate and being misleading by saying if you like your doctor, you can keep it, and by saying that it will be less expensive, and by saying that you can keep your insurance company. So he led the American people here, and he owes more than apology. He owes the truth.
Democrats seem to be blowing back a little bit on this whole week of political events in Washington, D.C. David, what do you think it's done for them?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, the key issue is that healthcare.gov needs to be fixed and needs to be made to work. The goal that the administration has laid out is that it will be functioning by the end of this month. If that happens, then that changes the dynamic quite a bit. Because right now what you have happening is you have folks that, you do have 5% of Americans shop in the individual market for health insurance. And some of those people are seeing plan cancellations. Now, of those folks that have their plans canceled, some of them may end up saving money in the end, some of them may end up with better coverage, but you have a dynamic right now where you have this asymmetry where the cancellations are coming in, but then they can't get onto the website. So that's sort of a political perfect storm. Now, if the website is working a month from now, and then all of a sudden millions of people are gaining health insurance, I think that will change the dynamic pretty dramatically. And the interesting thing to watch is come January. If the website is working and suddenly lots of people have health insurance, what we've been hearing over the last month basically is an argument that, in no situation can we ever have someone who has a plan now lose it. Well, come January, there's going to be a lot of people who have plans through Obamacare. And it's going to be an open question whether the notion of simply repealing Obamacare entirely is going to work for a party that's been saying basically no one can lose their plan. Go ahead.
Well, Steve, go ahead. You've written on some healthcare for Talk Business. You've also are obviously deep entrenched in watching this debate unfold as a columnist. What's your sense?
Well, it's tough for Democrats in red states right now. You've got Senator Pryor went out of his way to let us all know that he told the president during their 2-hour meeting how disappointed he was. You're talking about a fundamental remaking of a major part of the economy. That's a tough thing. On the other hand, if you can't make a website work, how are you going to do this? I think that that Democrats who are up for a tough re-election like Senator Pryor are truly hoping that something gets going pretty quickly on this, because he's really doubled down on this. Mm-hmm. There's no way he can run away from the vote for Obamacare, and so he said, he's talking it up. And at this point, there's nothing to talk up right now, so it's got to start working pretty soon if Democrats in these red states are going to be able to hold on their seats.
I think that's the tricky part about trying to do analysis now, is that, for all of the political posturing, if the website, if it's a complete failure, if healthcare.gov never works, then obviously this is an epic political disaster for Democrats. If it's working a month from now and people are signing up for health insurance starting on January 1, then this is going to look a lot more like we overreacted, this was a blip, that kind of thing.
An important note to what Steve said about Senator Pryor is that it's one thing now all of a sudden he's outraged and wants to represent the American people, but he, as Steve said, he voted for this, and the problem we're in, he was the deciding vote on Obamacare, but it was just recently where he said this is a tremendous success story. So we've gone
all
from
the Democratic senators were the deciding vote on Obamacare, weren't they? Okay.
Even I was.
And Mike Ross was, and okay, I got all of them.
No,
so.
but the key is he went from voting for it to saying it was a success story. Now that the administration has basically given these Senate Democrats up for re-election in these red states like Begich and Landrieu and Senator Pryor, they've basically given them the permission, okay, you can speak out against it now because we realize that this is a colossal failure. So it wasn't until they got the approval from the administration that he can say, okay, we really need to fix this now.
I think we should be clear about what this is, though, when we say this is a colossal failure. It is clearly possible to build a functioning website that does what this is supposed to do. They screwed up, and I think that anyone that doesn't acknowledge that is not being honest. The website has been a disaster. If the website starts functioning, then you have a completely different dynamic in which millions of people are signing up, gaining coverage. Many of those people will be getting subsidies. And if you start talking about repealing Obamacare, you're talking about taking that away. I don't mean to beat a dead horse here. I know that, sort of, as we're having this political discussion, we want to figure out what does it mean right now. But for Mark Pryor, for example, if the election was held today, healthcare.gov not working would be a disaster for him. If healthcare.gov starts working, then it's a completely different situation come November 2014.
Let's talk about the private option too, because we got some news this week that the private option has enrolled like 50,000 Arkansans here in Arkansas, which they're clearly not enrolling through the website. Where are these people coming from?
So, and it's actually 70,000 people have applied. Of those 70,000, 60,000 have been deemed eligible. DHS has already figured out that they qualify for the private option.
Where are they coming from? Where are these applications coming from?
So a few different places. The main place is that DHS did a direct mail campaign. So they had folks that they identified as people that were already DHS clients that they knew qualified for the private option, and they sent them letters. By the way, this is the kind of thing, when we talk about the healthcare exchange, they wanted to do, direct mail was part of the outreach that they wanted to do, but so far at least that outreach money has been blocked. But on the DHS side, they sent letters out to people responded, and they were basically pre-approved in terms of the fact that they qualified. And it was a pretty amazing success story. I mean, usually with direct mail you might get a 2 or 3% return. They basically, almost, I think for every letter they got maybe a 50% return on people
David
responding.
Ramsey co-opting Mark Pryor's amazing success storyline right there doing.
Yeah, well, and it was. And I think one thing that we should say, though, that to be clear, what's happened in Arkansas so far is that the private option part of the Affordable Care Act is going swimmingly. The healthcare.gov, the other part of Obamacare, isn't really going at all at this point.
How does it play out in the elections next year or the budget session next year? The private option's a very contentious issue, particularly in Republican circles. Steve and then Alice.
Well, it's difficult for Republicans because this is kind of their baby. They're the ones who came up with this idea. And now they say that they did it because we're playing the hand we were dealt, and they are right to say that. But the thing about the private option is that it has to be approved year after year after year with 75% of the vote. And some of those folks who voted for it got primary opponents. And some of them are kind of backing away from it right now. Now that we have 50,000 people who are already getting enrolled, it's going to be hard to vote against this now and say we're going to take away health insurance for 50,000 people. On the other hand, politically, this is a rough thing to be for. So I think that we're going to see, it'll be interesting to see these next two sessions if it takes root.
Now, that's not going to stop a primary opponent from coming after some Republicans in those primaries.
And that's the key. And there are a lot of folks that are running for election now or re-election now that voted for private option or at some point have showed some kind of indication they supported, and they either have an primary opponent now or they will, because there are people working behind the scenes. If anyone supported private option, they're going to have a primary opponent, and that's going to be something they're going to pay the price for it. But moving forward in this fiscal session, session, there still has to be some funding that they have to approve that goes along with this. And there's a lot of legislators, if healthcare.gov and the Obamacare continues the way it is, they're going to stand back from that. And it's not
We got
gonna
to
work.
take a quick commercial break here. We'll come back. The fiscal session, though, however, is going to be like the month, but those votes are going to be the month before the filing period opens.
Right.
So it'll be an interesting dynamic. We got to take a quick commercial break. We're back with our political roundtable. I'm Roby Brock. This is Talk Business.
The Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas. The State Chamber AIA is the leading voice for business at the state capitol and serves as the primary business advocate on all issues affecting Arkansas employers. Our mission is to promote a pro-business, free enterprise agenda and prevent anti-business legislation, regulations, and rules. Now more than ever, business matters. Learn more at arkansasstatechamber.com.
And welcome back. Joining me for this week's Political Roundtable is radio commentator and GOP strategist Alice Stewart, Arkansas Times associate editor David Ramsey, top business contributor, Stevens media columnist Steve Brawner. All right, so we're talking a lot about healthcare before the break here. I want to wrap that up, so I'm going to let David make his final comment there before the break about it, and then we're going to move on to some other topics.
Well, I just think the one thing to keep in mind is that healthcare.gov is a completely separate process than the private option. And so when we, and I think that that's something that people are getting a little bit confused about. They're imagining that healthcare.gov not working suggests that the private option is not working. But in fact, we have a state-run website for the private option that's working fine. And come fiscal session, if people want to back out of this, they may choose to do that. But the political challenge, it's not going to be 50,000. By then, it'll be 150,000, 200,000 people that they're essentially kicking off of their health insurance.
I've had trouble getting on the state website, but I haven't tried in a couple of weeks. So
not the private option. It's a completely different one. You're thinking of Our Health Connector.
Okay.
There's a completely different website that's working smoothly.
I stand corrected. All right, let's talk about what's happening in the 2nd Congressional District. We've got 3 Republicans seeking to replace Congressman Tim Griffin, who says he's not going to run for a 3rd term. We've got 1 Democrat announced so far. In the 4th Congressional District, James Lee Witt jumps in this week. There's already another Democrat in that race, Janice Percival. We got 2 Republicans in that race. We learned this week that Beth Ann Rankin's not running in the 4th Congressional District. So I said let's start with the 2nd. Let's start with the 4th. What does Beth Ann Rankin not getting into the 4th Congressional District do, Steve? What do you think it does for that Republican primary?
Well, she had a lot of name recognition and a lot of personal capital. Very well liked and very popular person. I think that Westerman was the front runner to begin with, because of his living in the Hot Springs, which is in the center of the district and has so many voters. So I don't know who she would have taken from. I think it takes the possibility of a runoff off the table. And a runoff is something that you never know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I think that Westerman is still the front runner of the 2 that are in there, him and Tommy Moll.
You agree with that, Alice?
I agree. I think Beth Ann has been fantastic. She's a great speaker and voice for the conservative cause. I think she's got a great future ahead of her. And as she has said, this just wasn't the right time for her. Yeah. And she clearly is one of those that gives all of these major life decisions thoughtful care and prayer and consideration, and it wasn't the right time for her. There will be a time for her. I believe she's got a lot to offer, but I think the key is that it does take away, in my view, clearly the possibility of a runoff. And now we've got Westerman and Moll going head to head in that primary, and I think it'll be a heated primary without a doubt. Moll's certainly got a great deal of money, certainly can use that to help boost his name ID. Westerman, with his political experience and name ID in the state, I think that's a big benefit. But going against James Lee Witt had been talked about for quite some time, but he's going to be a contender given he'll have quite a bit of money, and Bill Clinton will be coming in and helping generate some buzz and support, and that'll be
some Mike Ross synergy there too. Also, right. In the 2nd District, you got a 3-way. Looks like a potential for a runoff in the 2nd Congressional District on the Republican side. French Hill, Ann Clemmer, Colonel Conrad Reynolds out of Conway. Who do you see as the front runner in that particular race?
They all have tremendous strengths, and that's the good thing, is that there's tremendous strengths. French Hill being a good businessman, that's what we need. We need someone with certainly the business savvy to get in there and talk to folks in DC about we need to be fiscally responsible, we need to balance our budget and spend within our means. But also we have, Ann Clemmer with her political experience, that's beneficial in weaving through the politics. Colonel Reynolds with its attachment with veterans and the support of veterans is key, and his experience running for the Senate in the past will be helpful. But Patrick Hayes is a likable guy and has done tremendous work in North Little Rock, so moving forward that'll be a good race. But I think having a good, strong, heated primary like that for the Republicans is a good thing to generate.
And a bit unprecedented. Now in the 2nd District and the 4th District, you've got some Democrats in Pat Hayes and James Lee Witt who are older, white, male, conservative Democrats that have track records of showing that government can work. Pat Hayes is mayor, James Lee Witt is the director of FEMA, and I don't want to discount Janice Percival being a Democratic candidate in the 4th, but James Lee Witt's clearly the front runner for that nomination.
Yeah, they're two guys with a lot of name recognition. They're both very talented politicians. They're both going to be able to raise money. I think basically that those two are about as good as the Democrats could have hoped for. And I think that this is an interesting year. I mean, I think this is the year that we will find out whether Arkansas is kind of trending toward a permanently red, whether we're basically going to become Alabama, or whether it's going to continue to be a competitive state. And the Democrats in the 2nd and 4th have come up with, I would say, about as strong candidates as they could hope to have, which doesn't mean they'll win, but it will make it competitive in both districts.
What happens in the 1st congressional district? I mean, you can keep talking if you want to, but chime in on the 1st.
Seems like Representative Crawford has got in a walk. I think that's his to lose. I want to add one thing about the 2nd and the 4th. In the Virginia elections this past week, the Libertarian candidate got 7% of the vote.
How much?
7.
Okay.
In fact, neither the Democrat or the Republican in Virginia got a majority of the vote. Both the Libertarians and the Greens have qualified to be on the ballot this year, and I know they're going to be presenting candidates. And in a close race, that can swing the decision one way or the other.
And it did. One quick thing, in all of these congressional races, I don't see Steve Womack having an opponent, but all of these congressional races and that Senate race, it's going to be a hard year for Democrats. Just like we go back to the mindset in 2010, Blanche Lincoln, she was facing an uphill battle from the very beginning. And I see, and I do fear that Obamacare is going to continue to be a problem, and it's going to hurt all the Democrats.
Just quickly on I will say on the 1st that for whatever reason the Democratic Party keeps hinting that a big name is coming. Whether that will actually happen, we don't know. The one big name that's kind of floating out there is Dustin McDaniel. He says he's not going to do it. Yep. Joe Jett is another possibility, although he may want to stay in the House.
All right, lady, gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Alice Stewart, David Ramsey, Steve Brawner. I'm Roby Brock. We're going to take a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back to wrap up right after this. This is Talk Business.
Farm Bureau helps protect its members in more ways than you might think. They've always been the voice of agriculture in Arkansas, working on behalf of folks like me when nobody else would. And Farm Bureau stands for the values that Arkansas families care about. They've protected my right to farm and make a living, which helps everybody who likes food on the table. You know what they say, Arkansas counts on agriculture, and agriculture counts on Farm Bureau.